Welcome to the new video of Neurophilos. Get ready to dive into a gripping tale that will leave you breathless, thinking, and inspired. Whether you're here for the mystery, the drama, or the unexpected twists, you're in the right place. Make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, and subscribe so you never miss another powerful story. Let's begin. The hidden cage of reactivity. On the surface, it all seems so small, almost too small to matter. Someone drops a sarcastic comment, and suddenly your mood sinks like a stone. A mild criticism at work lands in your chest, and you carry it for hours, replaying it again and again. You send a message, it gets seen, and the silence that follows is enough to light up your anxiety. Nothing big has happened. No disaster, no crisis, no real threat. And yet your inner world feels shaken, unstable, and heavy. That's what makes it confusing. Because when the trigger looks minor, but the emotional impact feels major, you start questioning yourself. Why am I like this? Why can't I just let it go? Why does this affect me so much? And the truth is, it isn't just one comment, one glance, or one awkward moment. It's the accumulation of tiny provocations, minimal frustrations, small disappointments, passive-aggressive tones, side-eye looks, subtle disrespect. These little things don't feel dangerous in a logical sense, yet they carry the power to destabilize your entire internal atmosphere. Most people assume this is simply sensitivity. They label it as being emotional, caring too much, overthinking, or being wired that way. But if we're being honest, what's happening is deeper than sensitivity. It's reactivity. And reactivity isn't a personality trait you're born with. It's a conditioning you've learned. It's a system your mind has practiced so many times that it now runs automatically like a background program. The mind gets a stimulus, it produces a judgment, and the body launches the emotional response. Fast, instant, almost involuntary. What's even more unsettling is this. You may not realize it, but this says more about your internal captivity than about the external world. If a poorly phrased sentence can steal your peace isn't truly yours. If someone else's opinion can flip your emotional state like a switch, then your inner stability is not stable. It's dependent. If a stranger's behavior, a coworker's tone, or a friend's delay can pull you into a spiral, then you're not responding freely. You're reacting on command. This is where the brutal truth shows up. The kind people avoid because it sounds harsh. When you react emotionally to everything, you are not living freely. You're living as a slave to the environment. Not a slave in the obvious way. No chains, no prison walls, no visible force. A more refined kind of slavery. A sophisticated form. The kind where you still feel in control because your actions look normal from the outside. You go to work, you reply politely, you keep functioning. But inside, your peace is constantly being negotiated with the world. And the world is a terrible negotiator. In a highly reactive society, this becomes the norm. People get hooked by comments, addicted to validation, triggered by disagreement, shaken by disapproval. Everyone is responding all the time, defending, proving, explaining, overthinking, performing. It's exhausting, and because it's common, it starts to feel natural. But common doesn't mean healthy. Common doesn't mean free. Freedom, in the deepest sense, is not doing whatever you want externally. Freedom is not being forced internally. It's the ability to stay steady in your own mind regardless of what is happening around you. When that steadiness is missing, your life becomes a series of emotional hijackings. A random remark can ruin your day. A small rejection can collapse your confidence. A minor frustration can poison your mood for hours. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin living on edge, always vulnerable to the next trigger. Chapter 1 is the confrontation. If your internal world can be destabilized by minimal external events, it isn't because life is too intense. It's because your nervous system has been trained to react before you even choose. And until you see that clearly, you'll keep mistaking captivity for sensitivity and calling it just how I am, when it's really just what you've been conditioned to do. Slavery to impressions. Marcus Aurelius had a precise and uncomfortable name for the condition most people live in without realizing it. He called it slavery to impressions, not slavery to events, Not slavery to other people, but slavery to the way the mind instantly interprets what happens. This distinction matters because it exposes where power is actually being lost. The chains are not in the world, they are in the judgments you attach to it. In Meditations, Marcus Aurelius repeatedly returns to the same idea. Human suffering is not caused by things themselves, but by the opinions we form about those things. This runs directly against how most people experience life. We feel insulted, criticized, or disrespected and assume the pain came from the event. But according to Stoic thought, the event is neutral until the mind labels it. The suffering begins the moment the mind says, "This should not have happened. This is unfair," or "This is intolerable." Consider what actually happens when someone insults you. The words enter your ears, sound waves hit your eardrums, and your brain processes them. That alone is not pain. Pain appears only when the mind rushes to judgment. This is an attack. This diminishes me. This cannot be allowed. That judgment then triggers the emotional cascade. Anger, shame, defensiveness, resentment. From that point on, you are no longer choosing your response. You are being pulled by it. This is why Marcus Aurelius describes such a state as slavery. A slave does not act freely. A slave reacts. A slave moves when something external pulls the lever. When your emotional state can be hijacked by a sentence, a gesture, or an opinion that contradicts your beliefs, you are no longer sovereign over yourself. You may believe you are in control. After all, you are thinking, feeling, reacting. But in reality, your inner world is being governed by whatever appears in front of you. What makes this even more disturbing is how predictable it becomes. Emotionally reactive people follow patterns. Push the right button and you get anger. Withhold validation and you get anxiety. Challenge beliefs and you get defensiveness. These patterns are so consistent that anyone paying attention can use them. This is why reactive individuals are easy to manipulate, whether in relationships, workplaces, debates, or power struggles. Their triggers are exposed. Their responses are automatic. Their behavior can be forecasted. This predictability creates a form of control that doesn't require force. No one needs to threaten you physically if they can destabilize you psychologically. Control today is often exercised through emotional engineering, provoking reactions, shaping narratives, pulling attention, and steering behavior through words alone. And the tragedy is that most people participate willingly, mistaking emotional intensity for authenticity and reaction for strength. Marcus Aurelius warned against this exact trap. He understood that the moment you allow impressions to dictate your internal state, you surrender your freedom. An impression, in Stoic terms, is not the event itself, but the initial mental appearance of it, the automatic story the mind tells before reason steps in. When that story goes unquestioned, it becomes truth. When it becomes truth, it commands emotion. And when emotion commands action, the self disappears. But Stoicism does not argue for emotional numbness or indifference. It argues for discernment. The Stoic does not deny feelings, they examine the judgment that gave birth to them. Instead of reacting, they pause and ask, is this impression accurate? Is this judgment necessary? Does this truly harm me? That pause is everything. It is the space where freedom re-enters. To live without examining impressions is to live in constant reaction, dragged from one emotional state to another by external stimuli. To examine them is to reclaim authorship of your inner life. That is the shift Marcus Aurelius invites, from being ruled by impressions to ruling over them. And once you see this clearly, it becomes impossible to unsee how much of human suffering is not imposed, but volunteered. Control without chains. Modern control rarely looks like oppression. There are no visible restraints, no guards, no locked doors. Instead, control today operates quietly, through language, tone, implication, and emotional provocation. It doesn't need force when it can access something far more efficient, your reactions. When your inner state can be shifted by words alone, power no longer needs to be imposed. It is handed over. We like to believe we are independent thinkers, acting from reason and choice. Yet most behavior in contemporary life is reactive. A headline triggers outrage. A comment sparks defensiveness. A lack of attention creates anxiety. Approval creates elation. Disapproval creates collapse. These reactions happen so quickly that they feel natural, almost justified. But speed is not authenticity, it is conditioning, and conditioning makes people governable. This is how emotional engineering works. If someone knows what angers you, what flatters you, what scares you, or what validates you, they can move you without touching you. A single phrase can derail your mood. A dismissive look can provoke self-doubt. A calculated silence can force you into over-explaining or chasing approval. None of this requires dominance or authority, only access to your emotional triggers. A society built on reactivity becomes extremely easy to manage. People argue endlessly over symbols, opinions, and perceived slights, exhausting themselves emotionally while believing they are defending truth or identity. In reality, they are spending their energy responding to stimuli designed to pull them. The more reactive the population, the less resistance is needed. Words replace chains. Narratives replace walls. Marcus Aurelius understood this danger long before modern psychology gave it a name. He recognized that the most vulnerable individual is not the one without resources, but the one without inner stability. External chaos does not defeat a person, internal disorder does. When impressions rule the mind, control is already established. Against this backdrop, there exists a rare type of person who seems to operate on a different frequency. You provoke them and nothing erupts. You attempt to shame them and they do not rush to defend. You try to destabilize them with criticism or hostility and they respond with calm. Sometimes silence, sometimes measured words, sometimes nothing at all. This unsettles people, not because it is cold, but because it disrupts the expected emotional sequence. These individuals are often misunderstood. They are labeled detached, indifferent, or arrogant. But this misinterpretation misses the truth. What you are witnessing is not absence of feeling, it is mastery over it. Their calm is not emptiness, it is containment. They have learned to intercept the moment where stimulus turns into reaction. The Stoics referred to this capacity as apatheia, not emotional numbness, but freedom from being ruled by emotion. It is the ability to experience events without being dragged by them, to feel without being enslaved, to observe without collapsing into identification. This state does not come from suppressing emotion, but from restructuring the relationship to judgment. Most people react because they believe every impression must be answered, every provocation must be met, every challenge must be engaged. The unshaken person understands something crucial. Not every stimulus deserves a response. Silence can be strength, delay can be power, non-participation can be sovereignty. This is deeply uncomfortable for those who rely on reactions to feel in control. Manipulation only works when the other person plays the game. The moment someone refuses to react as expected, the script breaks. The provocateur loses leverage. The emotional transaction fails, and confusion replaces dominance. But this state is not accidental. No one is born immune to provocation. These individuals trained, they practiced pausing. They learned to filter impressions before accepting them as truth. They built space between event and response. Over time, that space became stable. Their reactions became optional rather than automatic. Control without chains is the highest form of power, not power over others, but power over oneself. It is the difference between being moved and choosing to move, between being triggered and being deliberate. In a world that profits from your reactions, refusing to be emotionally predictable is not just personal liberation, it is quiet resistance. The forgotten skill. Emotional freedom. The state most people mistake for emotional coldness is, in reality, something far more demanding and far more rare: emotional freedom. It is not the absence of feeling, nor the suppression of emotion, but the ability to experience inner states without being dominated by them. The Stoics understood this distinction clearly, yet over time it was lost, diluted, and misunderstood. What remains today is a shallow caricature, being unbothered as indifference, detachment, or lack of care. But true emotional freedom is none of these things. Marcus Aurelius described this state with the word apatheia. In modern language, the term often sounds negative, as if it refers to apathy or numbness. But in Stoic philosophy, it meant something precise: freedom from destructive emotional disturbance. The Stoic does not aim to eliminate emotion, they aim to eliminate captivity. The goal is not to feel less, but to be ruled less. Most people live as if emotions arrive with authority. If anger appears, it must be obeyed. If shame arises, it must be hidden. If anxiety surfaces, it must be indulged. Feelings become commands rather than signals. Over time, this creates an inner hierarchy where emotion rules reason, impulse overrides judgment, and the self becomes fragmented, pulled in different directions by whatever feeling is loudest in the moment. Emotional freedom reverses this hierarchy. It places judgment at the center and emotion at the perimeter. Feelings are acknowledged, observed, and allowed to pass, but they are no longer granted control. This is why the Stoics spoke of sovereignty. A sovereign does not deny the existence of forces within their territory. They govern them. This distinction matters because many people try to escape reactivity through suppression. They attempt to shut down, to harden themselves to not care. But suppression is not freedom, it is tension. What is buried remains active beneath the surface, leaking out as resentment, fatigue, or sudden outbursts. Emotional freedom, by contrast, is relaxed. It is alert without being rigid, present without being reactive. The person who has cultivated this state appears calm, not because nothing affects them, but because nothing possesses them. Criticism may still register. Disrespect may still be noticed. Loss may still hurt. But these experiences pass through awareness instead of anchoring there. The mind no longer clings to them, repeats them, or builds identity around them. This is why such individuals confuse others. Most social interaction runs on emotional reflex. Someone provokes to gain reaction. Someone criticizes to assert dominance. Someone withdraws to create insecurity. When these tactics fail, when the expected emotional feedback does not arrive, the entire dynamic collapses. The unreactive person seems untouchable, not because they are superior, but because they are no longer available for manipulation. Marcus Aurelius did not frame this as moral superiority or emotional distance. He framed it as discipline. Emotional freedom is trained, not inherited. It requires daily attention to inner judgments, constant refinement of perception, and repeated interruption of automatic responses. It is a skill, not a personality. At the core of this skill lies a simple but demanding practice: separating stimulus from meaning. An event occurs, the mind notices it. Instead of immediately assigning value, good, bad, threatening, humiliating, the trained mind pauses. That pause is where freedom lives. In that space, you choose whether to accept the impression or let it dissolve. This is why Stoicism emphasizes internal governance. Just as an emperor must regulate an empire through laws rather than impulses, the individual must regulate the inner world through reason rather than emotion. Without governance, chaos reigns. With it, order emerges. Not rigid order, but flexible stability. Emotional freedom does not make life smaller. It makes it clearer. It strips away unnecessary suffering, exaggerated drama, and self-inflicted wounds. What remains is direct experience, unfiltered by reactive narratives. To be unbothered in this sense is not to withdraw from life, but to meet it without surrendering yourself to every passing disturbance. And once this freedom is tasted, it becomes obvious. The greatest strength is not intensity of feeling, but mastery of judgment. Building an unshakable mind. Emotional freedom is not a sudden awakening or a philosophical insight that permanently changes you in a single moment. It is a construction, a system built deliberately, layer by layer, through consistent internal practice. The Stoics understood this clearly. That is why Marcus Aurelius did not write Meditations as a book to teach others, but as a manual to train himself. An unshakable mind is not discovered, it is engineered. Most people live reactively because their response system was installed unconsciously. From childhood, the mind learns patterns. Approval feels safe, rejection feels dangerous, criticism threatens identity, silence signals abandonment. Over time, these associations harden. They become reflexes. By adulthood, many people no longer realize they are responding from conditioning rather than choice. The Stoic path begins by interrupting this automation. The foundation of this reconstruction is the recognition that every reaction is optional, even when it feels automatic. There is always a moment, however brief, between stimulus and response. That moment may be almost invisible at first, but it exists, and with practice it expands. This expansion is not suppression, it is awareness. The mind learns to observe impulses without immediately obeying them. Marcus Aurelius emphasized one principle above all others. You have power over your judgments, not over external events. This idea is not comforting at first. It removes excuses. If your suffering is rooted in judgment, then relief is also your responsibility. But within this responsibility lies freedom. When you stop demanding control over the external world, you regain control over the internal one. Practically, this means training the mind to filter experience. When something disturbs you, the work is not to fight the feeling, but to examine the interpretation behind it. What story is being told? What assumption is being accepted as fact? Often, suffering is fueled not by what happened, but by what the mind insists it means. This interpretation can be questioned, and once questioned, it weakens. As this practice deepens, something shifts. Events that once felt catastrophic begin to feel manageable. Criticism becomes information rather than attack. Disrespect becomes a reflection of the other rather than a verdict on you. Silence loses its power to threaten. You are no longer pulled into emotional negotiations with the world. This does not make you passive. In fact, it makes action cleaner. When reaction fades, response becomes precise. You speak when it is useful, not when it is impulsive. You act when it is necessary, not when you are provoked. You disengage without guilt. You engage without agitation. The mind becomes a stable platform rather than a storm. Over time, this stability produces a subtle but profound effect. You become unpredictable. Not erratic, but unreadable. Those who rely on emotional leverage find nothing to grip. Their tactics fail. Provocation meets silence. Manipulation meets clarity. Drama meets neutrality. This does not require confrontation. It requires non-participation. An unshakable mind does not seek dominance or validation. It does not need to win arguments or defend identity. It understands that peace is more valuable than being right, and clarity more valuable than being admired. This understanding changes priorities. Energy is no longer spent reacting. It is invested in presence, focus, and deliberate choice. Importantly, this path is not about perfection. You will still react at times. You will still feel pulled. The difference is awareness. Each time you notice the reaction, you shorten its duration. Each time you question the judgment, you weaken its authority. Progress is measured not by the absence of disturbance, but by the speed of recovery. In a world that profits from outrage, insecurity, and emotional volatility, an unshakable mind is a quiet rebellion. It refuses to be harvested. It refuses to be predictable. It refuses to surrender inner peace for external noise. This is not indifference, it is sovereignty. And once you build this inner structure, you no longer fear the world's chaos. You can move through it without being absorbed by it. The strings are no longer pulling you. You are no longer reacting, you are choosing.